we'll get into it, man.
Cool.
Cheers.
Cheers to you, man. Yeah. COVID cheers.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah. It's first podcast in person since February.
Yep.
Yeah. The last one that I did was with Tyler from Nostalgia Chocolate, and I was listening back to it after we had edited the thing. Like, we recorded it, and I didn't put it out for like a month later. And listening back to that thing, it was like the first day. It was St. Patty's Day. It was supposed to be St. Patty's Day parade, and I'm like going back and listening to the podcast, and in it we're like, because it was like the first day that they said 50%.
Yeah.
And so we're like, yeah, hopefully this will be done in 2 weeks.
We were all so innocent. Oh, yeah. It's been a ride for sure.
Oh,
and
fuck
it ain't
yeah.
over yet.
Yeah. All right. So for everybody who's listening, who doesn't know who you are, introduce yourself. Tell us introduce yourself first.
Yeah, my name's Zach Cavallo. I'm the executive chef at 3 Lives, which is a bar that's opening. Yeah, I'm executive chef. I'm still getting used to it, but at 3 Lives, which is a bar opening downtown, right across from Funkin' Waffles, there in the heart of the city.
Oh, that's where it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a video game bar, arcade bar, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The term barcade is copyrighted, so that's.
Is it really?
Yeah, there's a string of like of barcades in cities around the country.
Yeah. Is that what they're called? Is a barcade?
Yeah, it's like barcade is the copyrighted name or whatever. But we're kind of reaching more towards like an esports kind of bar, and then we have retro arcade games to play, and then we're focusing on high-end fast food and then like high-end beverages and drinks and stuff. So
yeah, man. Do me a favor, bring the mic up like pretty close now.
How's that?
Yeah, you can bring it all the way to you if you want.
Cool. I'll scoot in a little bit.
Yeah,
how's that?
too. Yeah,
cool.
That way we'll get that nice bassy sound.
I got that. That radio voice.
Yeah, there we go.
Cool.
That's one thing I need to do is I need to get headphones for everybody.
Yeah.
Because that way everybody can hear their voice.
I was thinking of bringing some, but
yeah.
I could have done that, but oh well.
I know, man. I'm thinking about I'm at the point where I've got like X amount of dollars to like put into somewhere in the business, and I've been trying to decide for like the last 2 weeks what that's going to be. And so it's like, do I want to upgrade the microphones? Do I want to get like a headphone amp, which really isn't that expensive?
You should start doing like on location stuff, dude. Like I watched last night Brad Leone and Maddie Matheson, they went noodling.
Yeah. That was a good
shit
one.
like that would be awesome.
Yeah. So not as funny as that, but but a friend of mine named Liz, who has a podcast. I'm sorry, Liz, I forgot the name of your podcast, but it's a good one.
Yeah,
I've listened. to
I've heard
it.
I listen to it all the time.
Right.
Yeah, it's great.
Anyways, Liz reached out and wants to do a series, and we're still trying to figure out what it's going to be. If it's going to be like online episodes, mini series, if we're going to try and put out like a full-fledged like documentary sort of thing. Basically, it's either going to be a mini series where we just educate on how to actually consume locally.
Right.
Or we're going to do like a documentary where for a year, both of us try to not eat anything unless it's from a local source.
I think that's great because a lot of people around here, I mean, even myself included, as far as like distribution goes, don't really understand how to do it. And I went and had lunch at the Brinewell Eatery with Devin, and he was super educational just for a half hour of talking to him about local distribution for restaurants and how you can get it priced well what you're looking for and stuff. So that's something that after we open up, we look forward to doing our specials locally. As a chef, it's your dream to go to a market and get the food for your weekend special, and you know what I mean. So try to do stuff like that, at least in the summer when it's available. Is good. And there's a lot of stuff in the city. I didn't even know there was a market in the city.
Oh, really?
For Christ, I mean, I've been such a suburb rat. Like, it's so crazy. Just being in the city is like, oh my God, the education I'm getting right away is crazy. But I'm loving it. I really am.
So you're at 3 Lives now, which hasn't opened. Well, who knows when we're going to put this out, but it hasn't opened yet.
No, tentatively August 1st as of right now. Soft openings and stuff before, but we'll see with COVID. It's a flip of the coin, so we don't know.
So before that, I knew you when you were at Vince's.
Yep. That's where we
Way
met
back
officially,
when.
I'd say, yeah.
Way all those years ago.
All those years ago. Yeah.
And then you left Vince's and you went to Carmelitas.
Mm-hmm.
And then COVID-19 happened.
Yep.
And then you were out of Zach's apartment.
Yes.
And
The lovely studio that was my apartment. Yeah, I did. I was going to bring you the shirt that I made, but I ran out of, ran out of them, but I'll get you one in the next time. But it was like.
So how did you start at Vince's? Let's go back there.
So.
And was that your first cooking job?
So I started at Maine's Food and Party Warehouse.
Okay.
When it was there back in the day. I had gotten, we'll be completely true on the podcast. I got kicked out of college.
Oh, nice.
I was going to school for videography, actually.
Oh, cool.
And I got kicked out, and my mom woke me up, and she was like, threw the kick out letter on my chest when I was hung over at 3 p.m, that kind of thing, and she was like, go get a job or whatever.
Yeah.
So I went to Maine's and I got a job there. I worked in the deli, and my boss in the deli was a caterer on the side. And one day he was like, hey, do you want to help me with this gig? Like, the guy that was working with me bailed on me, like, come help me do whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, whatever. I'm going to just be like serving stuff or whatever. And we did a wedding for 120 people, plated, just the two of us.
Wow.
And I worked 30 something hours in 2 days and made a shit ton of money. And I was like, that was fun. Can I do that again? He was like, yeah, you did a pretty good job or whatever. And they slowly let me do more and more and taught me. And after about a year and a half of like working at Maine's and working with him on the side, he was like, go start catering on your own. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Did he have like a space, or was he doing it out of his kitchen? Or?
He did it out of, so it was a little more, legal than what I've been doing. But, come and get me. It's over now. but he had like a church, like rented a church kitchen.
Okay.
And he would do it out of there.
That's cool.
Before that, he had his own space.
Yeah.
But it kind of slowed down, and he got the job at Maine's. And you know how it is in our business. You got to have health insurance from somewhere. And it's not really coming from yourself. So,
yeah.
But I still to this day think he's one of the best. His name's Pete Greco. He's one of the best chefs I've ever worked with. And nobody really knows him. You know? I think he works at American Food and Vending now, and he waits tables at Amano, and he's waited tables at like Avicoli's for a long time and stuff like that. And he's just the smartest foodie ever.
Yeah.
He really got me going on like Mediterranean food.
Oh, that's
His
cool.
company was called Olives and Lemons, so everything was like real citrusy, really flavorful, like nice oils and stuff like that. So I learned a lot from him. And then he was just kind of like, "Hey man, go do your thing. Screw up." I was like 20 at that point. And it was a blessing to have somebody to push me like that, because I was able to screw up and undercook all the chicken in the world for people and do all the shitty, you know what I mean? Just really have that school of hard knocks kind of learning experience. And he said, just, cook for whoever will eat your food and just keep cooking and keep cooking. Even if it's like, you're not making money, just make sure everybody tastes your food. And I didn't really reap the benefits of that until like 3 months ago, but it was great advice. You know what I mean? Like to work on something for that long. And I'm a huge advocate for, sorry, Mom, not going to college. Right, it's, or at least, counselors and people like that trying to find a better way to push people into what they like to do. Because college isn't for everybody. It's not for me.
Yeah.
If I had just gone and worked in a restaurant when I was 17, I probably could have been a little more ahead, but, it is what it is.
But do you think it's important for people to go to culinary school?
It's funny. I met a chef recently who was who went to culinary school, and we hit it off. We were talking. We were having a great time talking food, had a beer, and I was like, I think you're the first chef from culinary school that I've met that I've ever liked. Which is not true.
Right.
Because there's people like Eamon, and Eamon's one of the nicest, greatest chefs, like
Eamon's like
greatest people to talk to. He's like the hero of our city when it comes to food. But as far as people my age, my generation is really lacks work ethic. I think, and school can sometimes make that even worse. As far as things like being a doctor and stuff like that, obviously not. You have to know stuff like that. But labor-intensive jobs like our industry,
Yeah.
You could take it either way. I think if I were to go back now, it would ruin me. But no, I mean, I think it's important to have the different niches for sure.
Yeah.
In our business, to have the corporate or high-end dining kind of style, and then to have the people that can take that high-end dining like ideas that they learned from YouTube and working in the business and stuff, and push that into like what we're focusing on at Three Lives, which is like high-end fast food, really great flavors, really good local ingredients, stuff like that, but in a way that's kind of more tangible to non-foodies. So
Yeah, man, it's I don't really know what the status of the industry is. I mean, aside from the fact that everything's fucked, I don't know. Like, I mean, I still don't know dick about food, but there's, I know that there's like waves that have like come and gone. And even though probably now I would say like definitely the local movement is probably more popular than ever right now.
Yep.
Because of COVID. I don't know. At least in my opinion, I feel like it's kind of dying a little bit because now things are getting a little bit back to normal. Even though people still really aren't going out. I mean, in my opinion, I'm getting way off track, but in my opinion,
we knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, we knew it was gonna happen. Listen, when I start drinking,
Yeah, when we get together,
I can barely keep a fucking thought together.
Yeah, it's
and
all
then
right,
if you
man.
add
There's a lot
beer-
to talk about, man.
I know.
I mean, we've all been sitting in our houses doing nothing for God knows how long. Like, I meet
buddy.
strangers, and I'm more talkative than I've ever been. It's crazy.
But when people were panicking, and when you couldn't get shit at Wegmans or Price Chop or any of that, you go to like Vince's, you go to Spears, you go to these places, and they still have plenty. Or you can go find a local farmer. I mean,
like when this all started, and I was going through a divorce, everything was like really crazy, just crazy, like insane. I found my sanity like at the regional market, like, and it was so sad for me to go there, like, and I was so angry sitting in my car because there was nobody there.
Yeah.
The first few weeks. And yeah, it was colder. It was the seasons were just starting to change and stuff, but I'd been there all winter and it had been packed. And when I was shopping there and just trying to push people to go shop there and stuff like that, it was like that was the sanity that like people could have had. Yeah. And it was a little sketchy to shop there, but it was a lot less sketchy to go than going to Wegmans.
Right.
Or anything like that. And that was, I've always said, shop local, shop blah, blah, blah. But it's like, as a 28-year-old man, you don't always have the money to shop local and stuff like that. But it kind of falls into it when you prioritize it. You're able to eat a little more healthy. You're able to be more creative. You're able to literally help someone's business that could be closing if you don't.
Yeah.
So
I thought about that a lot, going to those local places and just thinking about, maybe I'm spending more, not necessarily more on the product, but I'm just like buying more. I was thinking, it felt like you were doing something good at least.
Yeah.
But there is definitely those first, like, the week of like everything's now shut down. And the week after, I was definitely one of those panic buyers. I mean, I came here at like 7 a.m. one day I forget what I had to do, but I had to like come down here before I went to work to get something done. And I was driving into work at like 8, and Paul Valenti called me and was like, I'm pretty sure the governor's going to shut things down here this morning in his briefing. Like, you won't be able to leave your house. And obviously everybody at that time was like panicked the fuck out.
Yeah.
And I literally like did a U-turn, sped my ass to the nearest grocery store, just started running the aisles, throwing like rice and shit in the, not even thinking, called my wife. I was like, I'm on my way home. Meet me out front to get the groceries.
The only thing I did, I think, was I went to Asia Food Market, which is my home away from home.
Yeah.
And I was very sad when they closed for a few weeks, but I bought, same thing. Couple of 15-pound bags of rice,
Right,
like a bunch of a bunch of, dried noodles and
Right.
stuff like that. And then I just ended up eating like
Right.
normal.
Yeah, right. I know.
And I still have like, another 15 pounds of rice left
Yeah.
to cook, even with cooking for people. So.
We still have 6 cans of canned potatoes in the cupboard that we haven't touched. So, yeah, I know it's. I do feel like so. I don't know how much people are still concerned with like the local thing. I mean, places like Eden and Farm to Fork 101 did their direct to consumer from the farm. Boxes.
I heard they were planning on doing like distribution for restaurants at some point, right?
Yeah, so there's out towards like the Finger Lakes in Rochester, there's a place called Food Water Hub. And they basically do that. They essentially are the distributor from the farm to the restaurant.
Right.
And it's pretty amazing because they can do like any farm you can think of. You can get shit from them. And so, and I think they've been around for quite a while and they're pretty big in the area. But I don't think they hit Syracuse very much. So anyways, Eden is trying to, in Farm to Fork 101, Mark and Rich are trying to kind of do that. Hopefully I'm not letting the cat out of the bag with that one. But from what I understand, they're going to try and do that, which I think is great.
The rumor's going around, so
Right.
I'm sure it's...
But like, they had their boxes, which we bought a couple, and they were great. I drove to Earlville. Where the fuck is Earlville?
Somewhere that way,
Right.
or that way, somewhere.
I'm pretty sure it was south. It's out near Hamilton, sort of.
Yeah.
And I drove down there to buy a brisket from a dude, and it was like $10 a pound. It was fucking ridiculously expensive, and it still is.
Yeah.
But I drove down there because it was like a local farmer that I could buy it from. So it was like, sweet. And now restaurants are back open. We've only been out to eat 3 times since it all started.
I've been out to eat at Kasai Ramen 3 times in the last week.
Yeah, I was going to say today. You've been to Kasai.
Yeah.
Kasai Ramen
Kyle,
today.
Kyle's amazing. Kyle's been.
Yeah.
It's crazy to go off topic a little bit again, but the community downtown, going from working in the suburbs exclusively, and having it be such a competition-driven sort of. And it's weird, like the competitions between places that don't even have competition. You know what I mean? Like the negativity between a brewery and a restaurant, or between a pizza place and a Mexican place, or anything like that. Like, there's some people that are trying to push it a little bit, but it's just being downtown for 3 weeks now. I've been there. The people that have reached out to me and that have been super kind and that have like, and I say this because of talking about Kasai, like Kyle is just like, whatever you need, like,
That's cool.
let me know about this, let me know about that. Like, everybody's so supportive, it's insane. And I'm just like, come from that like Italian background of like, what are you trying to take money from me or close us down? You know what I mean? But like, it's been so positive and so nice, and it's such a great community. Like, I'm really excited to work downtown. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and I've just been like, never go downtown.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I'm downtown every day until like midnight, like
Right.
just loving it. So
How old are you?
28.
28. So when I was your age, no. But I was kind of the same way. Before I moved, we live on the north side. Before I moved to the north side and like started working at a place in downtown, which was, like 2.5 years ago when I started at Kubal. Like, I never went downtown. People asked me to go downtown, but like, fuck you, am I going downtown?
Oh my God.
You
I
know?
still, in my head, I'm like, it's terrible, but it's
Right.
not. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Now that's pretty much all we do.
Yeah.
We don't really go to the suburbs very often,
Yeah. I mean, if there was, I always said if there was a reason to, and working at Carmelita's Teresa's, food is amazing.
Yeah.
It's a little bit off the beaten path, and I was able to learn a lot from her, but it's like, again, the suburbs are not the place for stuff like that anymore, sadly.
And they're really not the place for, there's some good food, but it's not to say that it, there just can't be. But there's really nothing extraordinary in the suburbs.
Yeah. I mean, you see it, what's successful in the suburbs is family places.
Yeah.
Twin Trees.
Right.
Stuff like that. Nesticos.
Yeah.
I mean, I stand by Toss and Fire as one of the best pizzas in the city.
Yeah.
And I know that they would do 100 times better if they were downtown. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think they would.
You don't think so?
No.
No?
No, man. There are certain, so the way I look at, like, the suburbs, like Baldwinsville, for example.
Right.
Baldwinsville has so many restaurants
Yeah.
in such a small space. mean, if you think about like downtown, and then even just like the couple that are just outside of downtown, like Tussone's, Fireside Inn, which they do dinner, but really they're just So you have a couple of like those two places that are on the like 5 minutes outside of downtown
Right.
Baldwinsville, the village of Baldwinsville, not downtown Baldwinsville. But in the village of Baldwinsville, you have like 12 restaurants that are all open same hours. I mean, you've got at least 3 pizza shops.
Yeah.
Not to mention like the fucking Little Caesars. You have the Beeville Diner. You have Angry Garlic. You have now Greens and Grains. You have Devin, who opened up, I think that's his name, who opened up the old Chef and the Cook spot when
Right.
they left.
Yep.
I mean, there are so many restaurants, but Baldwinsville does a shit ton
Yeah.
of it. Like, if you can't be successful, like, I'm not talking about like being a millionaire, but if you can't be successful, pay your bills in Baldwinsville.
Well, I feel like Beeville is the cusp of like where people won't travel to the city.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's probably why it's so successful out
There's
there.
a lot of money out there. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of like people who have, make that $150,000, $250,000, $300,000 a year. So they've got, disposable income.
And that's why you can do fun stuff like what Angry Garlic does, and like they have decent menus that are a little more fun. They're not like city fun. They're not like going and sitting down at Kasai where Kyle goes, yeah, I'm just making what I want,
Right.
and it's all banging. Like it's all really really good, and
Right.
like it's that creativity is there. Like, and that's why I'm so excited to work in the city is because I've had creativity. You've had some of my specials before and stuff like that, but it's never been like me.
Yeah.
From
Right.
the
Yeah.
beginning of
Because
it.
you've been.
Yeah.
All right. So let's back up here. Just
Yeah.
a second.
Jesus, man.
Talking. This is what happens. The first.
My name's
podcast.
Zach Cavallo. I'm the chef at 3 Lions.
This is what happens, people,
Yeah,
when
it's
you come
all
out of quarantine.
Hey.
Put a microphone in front
Yeah.
of somebody. So, all right. So you're catering for that dude. You're working at Maine's with that dude.
Yes.
And then when do you go straight from that to Vince's?
So I had 2 stints at Vince's, actually.
Okay.
So that was my first stint. Was one of the cashiers at Vince's used to shop at Maine's and kind of like seduced me over there basically as like a deli worker.
Okay.
Because I was a really good salesman, and I always said if you could sell a pound of Wonder Bar bologna to somebody, you could sell anything, kind of thing. And we were selling a shit ton of Wonder Bar bologna, so it was. I went
Is that a thing? Hold on. Is that a thing in the deli to like be a salesman?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dude.
Really?
That's where I learned because in high school I was in theater, so
Yeah.
I was always really well spoken.
Mm-hmm.
But at the deli is where I learned my people skills completely
Really?
because Maine's was to try and be PC. Like people were fucking scumbags that shop there. You know what I mean? So it was you had to be nice to everyone, and there was people trying to steal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was also a restaurant, so you would deal with the restaurant owners too.
Yeah.
So as soon as I was working with Pete a lot, he was like, "Hey man, like this guy's pretty big around here.
Yeah.
Be nice to him." Or I worked for this guy before. He sucked. Like, don't give a shit about him.
Yeah.
Like, I learned a lot about the restaurant industry just from working at a grocery store,
Yeah.
which was great. But I went right from there to Vince's, and that was my first stint. I was like 22-ish, 23-ish. Can't really remember. But I worked at Vince's for 2-3 years. I learned a lot about Italian food, which I thought I knew a lot about, but I knew a lot about American Italian food. And I was able to learn a lot from Sam at Vince's about Sam's not the greatest cook of all time, but he's really knowledgeable about the different areas of Italy, the different cuisines, all the like ins and outs of business when it comes to food.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from him about that there. And that was my first stint. And then we got in a huge argument, and I told him to go fuck himself. And then I left. I was 22. And I worked at a couple of places like under the table. And then I was a chef at a daycare for a year, which was fun. I told you it was a long road. And that was actually kind of helpful in helping me like learn about like paperwork.
Okay.
Because you had to everything that you cooked, every ingredient that went into any of your food, you had to write down, which I hated. It was miserable. But it was helpful to learn like that aspect of everything and stuff like that, the more corporate aspect of food.
Yeah.
And then, I changed a bunch of diapers and blah, 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 blah. But after that, I actually went back. Whoa, where did I go after that? Vince's. I think I went back to Vince's after that, as the catering manager.
Okay.
That time, because I was still during all this, I'm catering on the side. Like,
how
crazy.
did you get back to Vince's after?
I was like, sorry, bro. Like, I don't know.
Would you see like the ad in the paper?
No, I mean, I'd grown up a lot. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
was in a pretty committed relationship. I was more adult. I was working on things. Blah 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 blah. I was a little less angry, stuff like that. And you know, I had a better resume. I had a lot of people in my corner about catering and stuff like that. And he knew I was good at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I did that. And then I was there for a little less than a year, I think. And then Teresa over at Carmelita's.
Really? Okay. It was that short.
Yeah, it was relatively short. Yep. And I didn't have any plan to leave that time. I was loving it. I mean, I love those guys like crazy. I was just there this morning.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any plans to leave, but I did a catering gig for Teresa's husband's birthday.
Okay.
Like at the restaurant for her. And I was able to use her kitchen and everything.
Bring the mic to you. You can bring that thing wherever you want, man. You can travel to.
Did you sanitize this?
No,
before?
I did not sanitize that shit. I mean, sure, yeah, I sanitized it.
So I was able to cook for her and use her kitchen, and she kind of saw me cook and stuff like that. And then she was like, "Okay, do you want to work here?" Like,
that's cool.
And I was like, "Yeah, I do, yeah." And so I ended up going there, and things were great. I mean, we were able to push. I mean, you were there the first week or two. I think I was there. And I kind of took over the social media, and I was able to push what I wanted to push, and blah blah blah. But it was still a little difficult just for me, who's creative driven and knows he can work a lot harder on things when he's creating and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was a little bit different. And again, I had no plans on leaving, but
right.
the world had plans on different plans.
Zach leaving.
But it was mutual. I mean, I love that restaurant, and I want to be able to eat there, and I want to be able to go there. And I said, you know, like you got to let me go.
Yeah.
Because I was like, my salary will close this place down.
Yeah.
And I feel like that happened a lot of places, but luckily I was able to thrive when it came to just cooking food out of my tiny little apartment, which was my ex-wife had recently moved out of, so I was able to just completely make it into a restaurant like style, like prep room in the living room, and
that's cool.
Moved all my shit into one bedroom and just like had the rest of it just kind of be taken over. And it was just like completely illegal and terrible, but it was like I was able to make money and support and stay, most importantly, stay practiced.
Yeah.
And second, most importantly, be able to put out content.
Yeah.
Like, and be able to just show people what I was doing and have different pictures of food every day and different cuisines every day, and to have that word of mouth between people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I found John.
That's cool.
Which happened after that, which was a bunch of people had just tagged me in his post where he said, I'm looking for a head chef, and I gave him a call, and I had an interview, and then I went in and had another interview, and then I was hired.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Eventually, we're going to move into a bigger house in a couple years, and I think the plan at that point is to, like, have a studio space. Yeah. Nice. I probably won't do anything crazy, but it'll be like a home office / you know. And actually, I am, you know, one thing positive during, well, there's been a lot of shit that's been positive during quarantine.
Isn't it weird?
But one thing is I've built an illegal chicken coop in my backyard.
Nice.
We live in the city. We live in the north side, and it's against the law to have chickens. But fuck you, government.
Yeah.
And anyways, so I did try to contact my city councilman. I just want that to be clear for anyone who may be listening to this podcast.
We believe you.
Yeah.
We believe you.
They didn't respond to me, so it's not my fault. And all my neighbors were cool with it.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, as long as you're being nice to your, like, chickens aren't going to bug anybody more than, like, a one house radius of your house.
Exactly. Or, like, they're not going to bother anybody more than a dog. So.
Probably less than a dog.
Less than a dog.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're building this chicken coop. And so I think I'm going to do some, like, I'm going to try and do a podcast a month where I invite somebody to the chicken coop.
That's amazing, dude.
I think that'll be fun.
That's amazing.
You know, just sit there amongst the chickens.
Yeah.
You know, talk about stuff.
That's amazing.
I think that'd be kind of fun.
I like that a lot,
I know,
actually.
right?
Let me be on that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Are you going to call it the chicken coop?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to call it. Yeah. Maybe like podcast on the farm or
dude.
podcast
like
in the house.
You should have, if like it's a chef that comes on, you should like make an egg dish with them or something.
Yeah. It's a good thing you said eggs and not a chicken dish.
Well, I mean,
a
couple of years down the road when they start getting older, maybe.
That was like one of the first things I did was like I went for about a week of YouTube videos on how to raise chickens. And then I watched a video on how to like butcher a chicken, and I quickly determined I would not be able to do that.
No,
So,
I'll take them, dude.
I'll
do them for you if you want.
I'm only going to get, so I'm going to get Rhode Island Reds, which are like great egg producers. And I guess technically they're considered like a half, because there's like meat birds, which genetically grow so fucking fast that like their bones protrude out of their skin.
Yes, yeah.
It's disgusting.
And you have to kill them.
Right.
yeah.
So there's those ones, or there's like, in between birds, and then there's like great egg laying birds, and there's like, your pet birds. So I've determined I was going to thinking about getting like a couple silkies, like, which are really just pets. They look funny. Ones like with the weird hair.
Yeah.
But I think I'm just going to get Rhode Island Reds. So they're good egg
birds.
layers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, man.
It's crazy. Like a lot of people don't really understand how much better farm raised eggs are.
Oh yeah.
Like taste wise, size wise. Like, just.
Well, I'm doing it because I wanted to plant a garden, and I've said it before, but we bought the side lot next to our house for $1, which is great in the city. So it's like this anomaly for the north side. We have this huge ass yard.
Yeah.
And so this year I was thinking, like, during quarantine, this is great. I'm going to build a couple raised beds, and, I've got a shit ton of space. I'm going to plant a bunch of vegetables. And
What, the soil was garbage?
yeah, nothing's ever been growing there except for weeds. So I was watching a video and a dude was talking about that, and I was like, oh, well, he's like, you can turn your soil, but you can turn your ground over, but it's going to take like a solid year of working at it to get your ground ready for seed. So I, was like, okay. So I bought a composter, and I was like, found out chickens are great for that. So I was like, okay, we're getting chickens.
If you really want to piss off the government, you can get goats because they're great for that too.
And
you don't have to mow the lawn.
I should just pause and say I also had to get my wife's permission. I would.
That's the real government, isn't it?
I would love to have goats or a goat.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, I think it would be cool to one day. We're looking at like buying a house now, like getting out of the city, just because. I mean, we don't live. I mean, obviously, we're. I would say middle-class white people, so we really don't know struggle that much. But we typically play a game on the north side. It's like, was that a gunshot or was that a firework? Now, today...
It's sad. It's really sad that things are... I mean, because I grew up in Mattydale, and it was... When I grew up, it was perfectly fine.
Yeah. Now, this isn't just since quarantine. This is even...
Oh, believe me, I know.
Yeah.
But
now,
it's getting dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, there was the... That's
a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, it's a white person problem to have.
Yes,
but the second weekend, I asked my wife if she would go to. I love you, Rebecca. I suggested that my wife should go to Boonville for the weekend.
Yeah,
just because it was like after the first week of like shit that was going down. I went to like Gander Mountain, Gander store.
Oh,
and
yeah, everybody's buying guns.
So I'll tell you, dude, as a 32-year-old person who's I fired guns before. Like I've gone to the range with like my dad and my brother. But I walked into that store and on a Sunday morning, and this like little teenager met me at the front door, and she's like, hey, we're doing certain things in certain departments. So what are you here for? And I was like looking around. It's like, I'm here to buy a gun.
I'm here to buy a gun.
And she was like, great, a firearm. She's
right
like,
this way.
She was like, it's, we do it one at a time. So you're on the list and we'll call you in like 20 minutes. So I wait around. I get called up to the gun counter, and there's this other woman behind the counter. And she's like, so, what kind of gun are you looking for? I was like, I think I want a 20 gauge. And she goes, great, what's it for? What's the use going to be for? And I like, same thing. I'm like looking over my shoulder. I was like, home defense?
Yeah.
And she was like, sounds reasonable to me. I was like,
well, there's a great Dave Chappelle, because I'm huge into stand-up comedy, especially through the quarantine. There's a great Dave Chappelle skit on one of his recent specials where he talks about the same thing. He moved to Ohio, and there was a lot of like white people walking across his land and stuff, and he's like, he went to Kmart and he's like, I need a gun, like, and they're like, okay, or whatever, and he's like, here's one, like, this would be great for you or whatever. And he's like, what kind of bullets you want? And he puts them in front of him, and he's like, oh, these look fine. He's like, those won't kill a man, the guy said. It's like, you could just get a gun anywhere, really, man. Nowadays. The pistol permit's a little different.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It really is. It was definitely an interesting time. And so I won't.
Is this a food podcast? Or?
Yeah. This has always been a whatever podcast. I mean.
No, I love it. I listen to it quite a bit, actually. It's a great. Because I'm one of those weird people that like listens to podcasts to fall asleep. Which is weird, but I've never listened to you to fall asleep.
Oh, thank you.
I actually listened to your podcast.
I've never thought about that before. That'd be really fucking weird.
Lay you down on my pillow next to me. And no, it's
I've been listening to Rogan since I started I've always listened to Joe Rogan, but now a 3-hour podcast in its entirety. For the last month, dude, I've gotten home from work, go outside to the backyard, turn on Rogan, get a beer, start working on building the chicken coop. It's been great.
No, podcasts are, especially Rogan, because he has so much diversity in his guests. Like, it's super educational. Yeah. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I like Rogan too because he's a comedian. Right. And it's funny. It's the same way I used to get, news. Like, I would watch The Daily Show. Yeah. And I would watch those things. Like, that's how I would get news, because the world's hilarious. Yeah. But you also got to know what's going on. Right. So I listen to a lot of those. But, I mean, it's great to have a local one about food. Like, to be able to get the word out about food around here, man. It's crazy how much people are sleeping on it. I'm even one of them. Like, yeah, man. Listen, there's so many places. I mean, I thought I knew something about like the industry in Syracuse and Central New York, and then I went to work at Gerhar's and realized that there's like 40 other people that they all know 100 different people. Oh yeah. And they teach me so much. It's like, oh, yeah, you hear about so-and-so? I'm like, oh, yeah, of course I heard about that. So it's cool to have this to be able to introduce people to the world of food in Syracuse. But something that I talked about a lot when I was leaving Carmelita's and when I was in quarantine, like, by myself, I had those couple of months that I was just by myself. And I was like, I would like look in the mirror. I'd be like, Zach, you got to brand yourself. And my mirror would look back at me and be like, that sucks. You know what I mean? Like, just branding yourself. Like, I've never been somebody who wanted to be in the spotlight or whatever, but like to be able to use something that I'm passionate about, like food. Yeah. To be in the spotlight, it's made it a lot easier. Yeah. I would do a couple of videos like with myself, like talking about whatever, but mostly it's my food that people are seeing, and that's what if people can recognize your food as much as they can recognize you, I think that's important.
You said that earlier about the dude who was saying just like make sure people are tasting your food, and that is pretty interesting when you think of like the world today and how so many things are really just content. And it's a picture, it's a video, it's an Instagram story, it's a TikTok, whatever. Yeah. To think about the fact that like it's kind of the same thing as like a musician passing out blank CDs of their tracks at like a gas station. I can't tell you how many times that's like I've found some great music from some dude walking up to me handing me a CD of his demo and asking for a donation. But it's kind of the same thing for a chef, I guess, when you're trying to get started. It's like if you don't have if you haven't like really been figured out.
Well, that's why I like the team that we have at 3 Lives so much right now, because John, the owner, John Page, he's 29. He's extremely motivated. He's got a great business plan, and he's fun, and he's himself. Yeah. And I've gone from, this whole story about where I came from, like, up until about a year ago, I wasn't like myself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't who I wanted to be in the food industry. I wasn't making the food I wanted to make in the food industry, and I wasn't like I have such a like personality that's like, I swear I'm boisterous, like I'm kind of out there when it
Yeah.
comes to personality wise, and like to be able to have a place like Three Lives, which is personality driven, and people want you to be personable and funny, and they want you to be able to, like, I have that switch when I'm in the kitchen that's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's time to take things seriously. Like that's where I do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then to be able to have the food there and have that speak for me
Yeah.
in a professional way is really important. And I pushed it down a lot, and I was like, I'm going to be in the high end dining. I'm going to be this or whatever. But in our generation now, things are changing to what I'm going to put out at Three Lives and what we're going to do as a team is going to be high end.
Yeah.
And people are going to be able to understand more, like, these younger generations have this sort of work ethic to be able to put out cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I play a shit ton of video games, so like it's in quarantine. It's funny, like me and John joke about this, and Josh, the bar manager, it's like, what did we do during quarantine? And he's like, I just made drinks and played video games. And I was like, yeah, I just made food all day and then played video games all night. Like that's all I did. And we're all turning that into a career now, and able to really just push it to a community that's, COVID providing, gonna be willing to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like come for the game, stay for the food and drink kind of thing.
Right.
Or vice versa. Whatever it ends up being.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there are places, the only experience I have, and granted you guys aren't really going for this, which I think is pretty cool.
Right.
The only place that I have experience of like a barcade is Austin. When I lived I lived just an hour north of Austin, but we would go down every once in a while to 6th Street on like a Friday night, Saturday night, which, 6th Street in Austin is like no holds barred. I mean, it's fucking like the cops shut down every intersection and just stand there at a barricade, and all of 6th Street is like, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, just a bar crawl,
Yeah.
basically.
I
every
mean,
night.
you can walk in the middle of the street completely naked, fucking smoking a blunt and drinking a beer in front of a cop, and they're not going to say shit to you.
Kind of sounds like downtown a little bit.
But I mean, that's like, 6th Street, now Austin has its fucking shit. But like that's, and I'm not advocating for that, Syracuse Mayor Walsh,
No,
if you're
please don't.
listening.
Yes, please don't.
But I'm just saying, like, so that was 6th Street. But like you would walk past, it was like club, bar, restaurant, barcade, club, bar, like that was just like the thing down the street. And there was barcades there that were like first floor was a fucking dance club, or maybe first floor was like the actual barcade, second floor was a fucking dance floor, third floor was this for like I mean, they were intense for sure.
Yeah.
But they worked, and granted that was like 5 years ago. But to have Three Lives be like a little bit more esports focused,
it's like
fucking amazing.
Oh, and we all like, it's funny as an adult, like, you know what I mean? Like you kind of like, I've been closeted as a gamer for a long time, you know what I mean? Especially around like girls.
Yeah.
If you're trying to impress a girl, you don't go, I watch this stream every day. You know what I mean? Like that's not the first thing you bring up. You don't put that in your Tinder profile, you know?
Yeah.
But like, it's to give people like us a community.
Yeah.
And to open them up to great food and great drink and a community of people.
Yeah.
And we're incorporating like our own Discord and things like that. And you can log into the Discord when you come.
That's cool.
And stuff like that. So there's so many layers, and
yeah, man.
And it's like every meeting we have, we're like all pitching ideas, and we're like, yo, we gotta make the menu. Like there's so much room to grow with a place like that.
Yeah.
That it's gonna be a fun ride.
Yeah.
And we're really excited to get open, and we just want to make it the best we can before it's open, and then.
That's cool.
We just had the kitchen installed yesterday, so I get to start testing on Monday, and it's like,
wow.
I've been in that kitchen just like, come on, like cleaning everything over and over again, ready to just get it going. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a pretty cool space for sure.
Oh yeah, and the menu is going to be great. The drinks are going to be really, really good. We have a 12 tap system, and it's going to be all local stuff.
That's cool.
Besides the few.
Yeah, we've talked.
You gotta have at every bar.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We've talked, I don't know if you're still planning on it, but like it being a lot of like smash burger sort of.
Yeah, so the
focused.
menu is kind of based around we're gonna be grinding our own meat. So it'll be smash burgers, and I'll be making my own sausage. Thank you, Sam, at Vince's, for teaching me how to do that and making me make a shit ton of it all the time. But I think it's conducive to having the quality be there.
Yeah.
And it's also really, 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 really good to do.
Yeah.
Honestly. And it's not as much labor as people think it is and stuff like that.
No.
But it's we're basing it around smash burgers, and like kind of having our house specialty sort of toppings and stuff like that, and our own special burgers.
Yeah.
And then po' boys, and then a bunch of different sides. So bar food, like high end bar food, sort of really high quality.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of pickles, a lot of things like that.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So it'll be fun.
God damn it.
I'm excited, dude.
That sounds so
I'm
fucking
trying to
good right now. I
like,
mean, granted,
not be bouncing up and down.
I'm 3 beers in, but
Yeah,
that sounds
dude.
fucking amazing. Holy shit.
And it's crazy how well Josh and I are already working together with food and drink, like, because you're not going to be eating something and not drinking something, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of people sleep on that, you know what I mean? Bars are too separate from the food sometimes.
Yeah.
So we'll do some fun stuff with if we do brunches and stuff like that, we'll do some fun like drinks, and there's those things like you talk about Austin. There's like these milkshake bars and like all these things, like making our own house ice cream and stuff like that is a possibility. There's a lot of cool stuff we can do. So, and like I said, I could just about it all day long.
Yeah. Do me a favor.
What you want me to get even closer?
No, don't do brunch.
Don't do brunch.
I hate brunch.
Yeah, because you're not a white girl. Like, that's why you hate brunch.
That's probably.
I don't want you at the brunch.
Listen, that's probably smart. But
no, we're going to be open Sundays at 11.
Okay.
So our brunch will just kind of be like our brunch special, if that makes sense, like a Brinner
Yeah.
special.
Okay. All right. That's cool. Brunch to me is either like expensive for the normal shit.
Yeah, whatever, dude.
Right. Yeah. Fuck you. Listen, you go to a restaurant. Hold on. If you go to like a special, and everyone listening to this podcast better fucking agree with me. If you go to a
Nobody's going to agree with you. People
If you-
love brunch, bro.
brunch sucks. Brunch is the worst. It's like not substantial enough to like be like, wow, I'm stuffed. And it's also too expensive for the regular like breakfast menu. If you go to a brunch plate, listen, just hear me out of this.
Dude, it's
Hear me out. Just hear me out of this. If you go to a brunch only place, not a brunch only, but if you go to a non-breakfast place for brunch, and you order like eggs, hash browns, and toast, that shit's fucking like $13.
That's not on a brunch menu, though.
You'd be surprised how many fucking places in this town.
So you do go to brunch.
Well, listen, I've been a couple times.
I slightly agree with you, but as a chef, brunches are fun.
What?
Listen.
You may be the only person I've ever heard say that.
Dude, I was able to do the last brunch I did at Carmelita's. I did
that's
French
different.
toast with
That's
homemade
different.
cream cheese, and I took IBU's blonde coffee ale,
Yeah,
and I made maple syrup out of it.
that's cool.
I had a blast and a half, dude. Like,
Carmelita's is different because Teresa listened to advice from someone, I won't say.
from you about brunch,
who said,
and you said don't do brunch. Is that what you said?
I said make it an event. Do it once a month.
I agree.
Like,
yeah,
make it
and
a
that
thing.
was really conducive to it being successful, honestly.
White people will fucking go crazy over once a
I think
month
places
brunch.
that are just like brunch places, it's a little bit more difficult. But as either a ticketed event or something like that, it's something that's fun for the chefs, fun for the people, and it makes money. Like,
you should do like an esports tournament combined with like a brunch.
oh yeah, we're gonna be doing a lot of like, especially because what's so great is there's always gonna be a new video game coming out. There's always gonna be a new tournament that's happening. There's always gonna be all these things that happen in the video gaming community that we can pair food and drink with, and we can pair all this stuff with, and it's like, I'm such a nerd about it, sitting there watching the PS5 event with my friends, like, yeah, I can make food about this, like, sweet, like, stuff like that. And it's been really fun, like, making the puns on the menu, like, for the food and stuff like that, but.
Yeah. Let me check these cameras real quick.
My name's Anthony, and I don't like brunch. Boo, boo, boo.
Have you not read Bourdain's fucking Kitchen Confidential?
Bourdain was I love that man, but he was angry. He was angry about everything. The man's a inspiration and a half, but jeez, we don't all need to be so cynical about eating food at a different time of the day. Like,
that's pretty funny. Yeah, man, I don't know. I just don't like brunch.
It's understandable. I have there's a lot of things when it comes to food. Like I think people will be like, hey, like, will you try this? Like, blah, blah. It's like, I'll eat anything.
Yeah.
Really. I'm not going to eat it and be like, this is my favorite. But like if you're putting something in front of me, I'll try it.
The only brunch that I've ever liked. Now.
Besides Carmelitas, which I don't think you ever went to.
I
Thanks
did.
a lot,
We did once. And I did like Carmelitas. However, I don't know, man. There's just something about brunch. It's like a way to overpay for your food, I feel
there's like, there's certain restaurants that I've gone to that I've had one bad experience at, and I won't go back to again just because, and it might be good the next time because people change chefs, people change this, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, like, I don't know. Once you get it in your head,
right?
That's like,
I think here's my
you'll
issue.
eat any brunch and it's just your taste buds are feeling different. Like, it's.
Here's my issue with brunch. Brunch works. Well, it doesn't even really work. No, brunch just doesn't work. I'm sorry. I said
breaking
it.
the fourth wall because you're talking about brunch for too
Yeah,
long.
I know. Anthony's Eat Local CNY official stance on brunch is that it sucks.
Yeah.
And
no, I mean, I like half agree with you. It's different on the back end, I think, and it's crazy that you say like chefs don't like brunch. I think it might be because they're just doing the same brunch over and over again, and they're not changing things around and doing fun stuff. But like when we would have our brunches, they'd be themed. Like IBU was there pouring, making beer mimosas and stuff like that, and I was using their stuff in the food, and it was a fun event.
Yeah,
and I had people go like, "Why'd you do that to the French toast?" Blah blah blah. I was like, I made my own cream cheese.
Right, yeah.
What do you mean? Why did I do it? Like, it was delicious.
Teresa did a good job with those things,
yeah,
man.
Yeah. And it was, I loved working for Teresa. I still have coffee with her and stuff like that. And she's a great, great woman. She's super nice. Her food is so good.
It is.
It's just not conducive to having someone else there that's good at what they do too. You know what I mean? It's not like that. And we both kind of knew it.
Yeah, you're not going to have...
And COVID was a blessing in disguise for both of us.
Right.
If she's still doing really well, so...
If you're a chef, you're not going to go into Carmelitas and, like, have your own...
Because that woman has been making that food...
Right. And it's
she
good.
Was 6 years old.
It really is good.
And it's great.
I mean, now, this isn't saying much. It's saying a lot, but it's not saying much. She had the best taco 2 years ago in Syracuse, according to my palate.
You don't need to be humble, bro. I will say this publicly on the podcast: like, you are huge for the city. Yeah. You don't need to be humble about it.
Thank you.
Like, especially like even just with me personally during the quarantine, like, you see somebody local that's trying to do something and you support them.
Yeah.
And it's a huge, huge thing to have somebody like that around here, especially in a media that Syracuse doesn't have a lot of. Which is podcasting and really just food media in general. Right. So. Yeah,
I mean, I love the fact that we live here. And listen, I try to talk my wife into moving to Hawaii, like, often.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I would jump ship and go to Hawaii tomorrow. I would give you Eat Local CNY. I would give that dumpster.
We do look similar enough. I think it would work.
I don't give a shit. If I could live in Hawaii, and it's part of the goal. I mean, listen, there's too much shit going on. Like, one thing that quarantine has taught me that I'm quickly forgetting now that things are getting somewhat back to normal. One thing quarantine taught me is, like, I was doing too much. Like, your aunt's a great person, but I was producing her podcast. And, like, the first week in the quarantine, I was editing the last episode that we had recorded. And I was busy even though things had died down. Yeah. And I was like, how the fuck was I doing this 3 weeks ago? Like, where did I find the time to do this? I don't have time to do it now, and I'm less busy. And so I was like, I can't do it anymore. And there's a few other things that I did that with. It was like, I'm doing too much.
Yeah.
Now, I'm still doing too much.
Well, the quarantine has been crazy, and like, it feels like such a break,
Right.
even though you're still working so much.
Yeah.
Like, when you're able to focus, and for me, like, I was doing crazy amounts of orders
Yeah.
for people. Like, crazy amounts out of my own apartment. Like,
People were messaging me, dude. They were like,
and it was crazy.
hey, we ordered from Zach. I mean, people were
Yeah.
sending me shit.
And it was like, when I was doing that, it didn't feel like work.
Yeah.
But I was busier than, I was working more hours than I was at Carmelita's before.
Yeah.
But I was doing stuff that was creative and new stuff. And people were so willing to be like, you know, I want chicken riggies. And I literally told somebody, I was like, I'm never making chicken riggies again in my fucking life. I made the decision in quarantine, and I was like, no more chicken riggies for me. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, well, what can you make? And I was like, you know, I would draw up a bunch of menus for them and just like crazy, like, and it was like, people are now through quarantine, their palates are getting bigger. They're starting to care less about, like, you know what I mean? I was making fermented hot sauces for people. Like, I was doing this stuff that they would never try before.
I mean, let's just take out of the equation that you were like putting effort into it.
Right.
So let's just take that out of the equation for a second. The fact that you had started this business and were cooking the shit for home delivery out of your kitchen in your apartment or wherever the fuck you lived with like
nobody knew.
like that's probably like that's a massive, in my opinion, success story. You know, granted, if the health department or, you know, like if the government, if the police fucking, you know, if the state came calling for, you know, but fuck that. Like that's such a success story of quarantine that someone would, instead of just, I have another person that I know who during quarantine was laid off from their job, still had another like side gig, but went into a massive depression of laying on their couch, watching movies all day, not showering, had the ability to go do something, but just didn't do it. Like, it's obviously there are two like extremes, but it's really like either you did this or you did that during quarantine.
And that was a huge, and I mean, like I mentioned, I literally just got divorced.
Which is even more...
when COVID started.
More fucking crazy.
And I was incredibly depressed. But I could have, and I don't like to, I'm a huge advocate for mental health. And I don't like to toot my own horn about anything because it's not helpful to my own mental health to have a big ego. But it was the first time I was proud of myself for how I was handling something. Like, because I would normally go over the edge with things like this. And it was like, okay, Zach, you have these skills. You're unemployed. You're here. You've been dealt these cards. Okay. Like, it was just, they were dealt to me. They're there.
Right.
I'm looking at the cards and I'm like, either I could go to that couch and sit there, or I could move that couch as far away from the kitchen as possible and put a bunch of pizza boxes on it and never sit on it again. And that's just kind of what I ended up doing. And it was like, you know, don't get me wrong. I was depressed. I was drunk half the time I was doing it. Like, but I was there doing it. And it's something that a lot of chefs, I think, can understand, especially young chefs that are in the area that I'm in right now, which is Syracuse, New York. Yeah. And there's not always areas to, and to me, I was like, I'm going to call Eamon and beg for a job at Cisco. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I was like, you know, that's what I want to do. But like, I was like, you know what? Like, just keep making food. And there was something good about like not really caring about my life very much for a little bit. Like, that kind of helped me just dive headfirst into the food and work as hard as I could, and then meet people like John and meet people like the team that I have, and to have all those people and my mom's calling me the whole time going like, are you okay? Like, at all hours of the day. It's like, I don't know, Mom. I'm cooking right now. Like, I gotta go. I have 4 pizzas like it's by 6. Like, but no, I mean, it was I don't like the term success story
Yeah.
by any means, but I'm a huge comic book nerd, so origin story is a good one. I like that one.
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, man, it's just, I don't know if you would, like, I have a feeling that you would agree with this, but, well, first of all, it's very different when you're doing something that you love. Like, everybody's heard that, quote, what is it? Like, if you're doing what you love, then you never work a day in your life.
Yeah,
right?
which is again going back to college. That's why college is so hard for some people because I went for film, but I went to a state school. I took one film course in 3 semesters. I'm out of there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so it's the same thing, but
I mean, and there is even, like, I was just listening to a interview with Quentin Tarantino and Howard Stern from 2012, and Quentin Tarantino, who dropped out of school in middle school, didn't even graduate. Like, it's not even like he was a high school dropout. He dropped out in middle school.
Yeah.
And as he got older and, in his 20s, tried to become an actor and going to acting school. And his acting coach quickly told him, you're really not a great actor, but the stories that you've been writing for our class to, act out have been phenomenal. They're some of the best things I've ever read before. Maybe you're more of a writer. And that's how he became this brilliant director that he is today. And so I think there are certain things that people do. This may not be a relatable story, but it's a story. I grew up in church.
yeah,
I'm a theology major.
yeah,
All right. Worked in churches, volunteered in churches. I was a music pastor at churches for a decade, right? Like, I was in church. And I always worked at and went to churches that were more like hippie-ish,
Right.
like free spirit sort of thing. They were like the crazies. But those were also the churches where I experienced more of like actual God than
Right.
I did and just like going to mass on a Sunday.
yeah.
So having said all of that, there's a thing in church culture. There's the thing called a prophet. Like, everybody knows what a prophet is, right? So there's a thing in church culture and like the denominations that I worked at where someone would get a prophetic word, which what that means is basically they're hearing something that God's telling them for someone else. And it's usually like highlighted in a moment. So in other words, you and I could be having a conversation and I could get for those of you listening and not watching, prophetic, air quotes, prophetic word. So God could be telling me something that I need to tell Zach
Right.
in this moment.
Right.
It's not for next week. It's for in this moment. All right. So that's what a prophetic word is. Now, having said all of that, just to like build the context, I was a worship leader or music pastor at the church. So I like led the band, sang the songs, played the guitar, right? That's what my job was. Every air quote prophet that came into churches that I worked at would always give me a air quote prophetic word about how I would one day write songs and produce music and all of this stuff. I fucking suck at writing songs. Listen to me. Like, I've tried in my younger years when my life was church. I suck at writing songs.
Yeah.
I am so bad at writing songs, which I imagine most people are, even musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Being a songwriter. So, having said that, it was just like the easy, low-hanging fruit. It was like,
Yeah, it's
like
tarot card reading.
Exactly.
Or telling someone's future or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was always like, oh, he has a guitar in his hand. Here's the prophetic word.
You will write songs
Exactly.
on the guitar. Yeah.
You will one day lead nations with your music. Right. That's typically how they went. And I feel like that can be the case in pretty much any area of life, of our lives. Not that we have to have somebody that comes along and says, you will do this because we see you, that you're doing it now. But I feel like it's like, all right, well, we're kind of successful in this area, so I'm just going to jump 1,000% into it.
It's like giving yourself a prophetic word is like the faking it till you make it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is which is part of my success story is faking it until you make
right.
it kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, in my analogy, it's like something that you're good at, but that you don't.
Right.
I'm 32 years old. Am I 30? Yeah, I'm 32 years old. I think I'm 33.
33.
I'm going to be 34. Right? Yeah, I'm going to be 34. I had to do some math there for a second. I still don't know what the fuck I want to do.
Do we ever? Like,
No.
I think it's good. Like, it's good.
Yeah.
Because you're good at so many things, and, like, people can be good at so many things. Like, me, I was a musician, too.
For sure.
I went to school for videography.
Right.
I won awards in high school for videography.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what everyone thought I was going to do.
Yeah.
And I was cooking at home. I was making dinner for myself. My mom was teaching me how to make food. I was good at that.
Yeah.
And then I left school, and I don't know what I'm good at. I'm still trying to do a videography thing. Like, I'm still trying to do this. There's so many different things that you're good at. And the great thing about all of that is, especially with, like, people like you and I, we can use all our talents in one place. Because food is so broad. Like, there's so many artists. There's graphic design that you can do. There's video that you can do. There's this, there's that, there's everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, food is kind of like where all the misfits fall. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I like that prophetic word analogy, though. It makes a lot. It's like that can tie into so many different places in life. Like, people just are like, here's this low hanging fruit for you that you should just take and eat. Like,
I posted so many pictures of, like, the pizzas or the breads or whatever I was making in quarantine from the house. And there was this one person that I'm friends with on Facebook, an old family friend. And she would always say, you should open a restaurant. You should open a restaurant. And every time I wanted to say, I want to wish that on my worst enemy. Like,
oh, dude,
do you know what?
It's
like,
the stupidest thing you can do as a human being.
Right. Hi, John. I like, that is the worst decision. Not the worst decision.
But that's why they're so successful, bro. Like, that's why the community downtown is already so important to me. That's why people like Kyle and, like, Devin at Brianwell that I just met, like, these people are like, I know this is difficult. Let me give you what I've learned.
Downtown is
so that it's all better, so that we can all get better together.
Yeah.
And that's what's lacking in the suburbs, and what's starting to not lack in the city. Like,
that's been like, I will say, the past 2 years in Baldwinsville, I've done the promotion for their Baldwinsville Dining Weeks.
Yeah.
And I will say that it's really surprising. Not every restaurant has participated in it, but, like, I think this last year we had 12, and there was 12 restaurants, maybe 10, but these restaurant owners are all coming together, working together, sharing information in Baldwinsville, which is absolutely unreal. And the same does exist downtown. There's a couple people that I've met who are like, I've asked to do, like, cooking videos, and they're like, I'm not going to do a cooking video on my sauce because I don't want my competition to find out what my sauce recipe
nobody
is.
cares about your sauce.
All right, exactly.
Oh my God, dude.
But so I've and those are few and far between.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, I've talked to Cody at Deefy, who has hooked up with Kyle to get, like, some miso from him to come up with some weird dish that he's making it in. You know, it just goes back and forth. A lot of people downtown are in direct support of each other.
You know what you should do? I'm going to gift you this idea.
No,
you know what you should do? Do market basket competitions with...
Fuck no.
Yes,
no.
dude.
Josh, there's a...
No,
no, listen.
Not,
listen
but
to
not
me.
just with one chef from each place. You pair two chefs together.
Okay, that's not a bad idea.
Because you don't want competition, but you want camaraderie. You know what I mean?
There is a motherfucker. I don't usually talk bad about people on this podcast, but I'm, again,
Am I bringing it out?
I'm like 8% beers in.
And you haven't talked to anybody
right,
in 3 months?
I haven't talked to anybody in 3 months. I've been telling my wife. I can't post on Facebook. I'm a public figure.
Yeah.
There is a motherfucker who I don't think exists in Syracuse anymore. He had the Chef's Chopped Challenge is what he called it. His name is Josh something. In his early stages, he was basically, like, directly trying to compete with Mark at Farm to Fork 101.
Right.
So what Josh did is he did the social media for Grindstone Farms for like a millisecond. And so what Josh would do is he would get all this produce and meat from Grindstone. He would go to the restaurant. It was the same thing. It was like here's a basket. You don't know what the fuck's in it. You have to cook this food, and I'm going to sell tickets to it. But he gave away more tickets than he sold.
Oh, yeah.
And so the restaurant really never got much out of it.
Right.
And then at the day of the evening of the event, he never mentioned the chef or he really made it about himself. And he was just kind of fucked up. I mean, he was a take advantage person. Like, he for some reason started posting that Eat Local CNY was sponsoring his events, even though we had nothing to do with them, had never been to one.
So there's drama.
There's not drama.
There's history.
There's history in the fact that this dude was he was just a taker.
Well, do it better. Take it from him.
I don't want to. I don't want to put the time and effort into it.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I think I just asked you to do it because it would be fun for me.
There's a lot of fucking ideas
Yeah.
I'm
Well, if you look
thinking
at
myself.
with it coming up, like the fair not being something that's happening.
Is that official?
I hope so.
Really?
Yeah. What do you think? The fair should happen?
COVID is obviously. I'm probably gonna fucking piss a lot of. Hold on one second.
Oh no.
Hold on.
Listen. I plead the fifth on whatever you're gonna say right
You're
now.
about to be the
It's all you.
longest podcast in the history of local CNY. COVID sucks.
It does.
Right.
I will agree with that statement, but probably not the rest of what you're about to say.
I, however, 1,000,000% think that the government is making this so much worse of an issue than it really is.
It's made us all into conspiracy theorists, and I say that a
Yeah.
lot. I've never. My friends are like, all these conspiracies. They watch all the Netflix documentaries about them, and I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not concerning myself with that, but this is something that everybody has to concern themselves
Yeah.
with. So everybody has their own theory about what's happening, and
Right.
to me, it's just like, I'm gonna follow the laws that there are.
Yeah.
Which are there any?
Right.
Where's the paperwork for me to
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've spent the last 2 days working on paperwork and stuff like that for my future employees.
Yeah.
And I want to make it as safe as I possibly can for them with COVID, but even the New York State Health Department websites,
Yeah.
Serve Safe websites across the country,
Yeah.
there's nothing.
I know.
There's no
All of
information
those
about
websites.
COVID.
Yeah.
And there's no paperwork or anything like that. And there's a 10-minute course
Yeah.
that you can get a certificate for that
doesn't
just
really
says
do anything.
hello,
Yeah.
COVID-19 is here.
Here's
Here's this certificate. That's all it said.
it is really all boiled down to who do you like more for your information?
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about the drastics of a Fox versus CNN, but even I don't listen to any media, read anything, watch anything, except for really podcasts, and then I will scroll through headlines.
Yep.
And if it's drastic enough where it doesn't seem like it's clickbait, I'll read the article. And to be honest, my main source of news and information and what I feel is legitimate is Joe fucking Rogan.
Yeah.
And also personal
Half the
experience.
country, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm with you. It's a someone who's not affiliated to a party,
Right.
Who's and I hate talking about politics. I hate it, but somebody who's not affiliated with a party that is just giving information.
Yeah.
And yes, he has his opinions,
Right.
but that's not what he leads with.
Right. But
You know what I
Rogan
mean?
is so far removed from pretty much either side.
Yeah.
I had when COVID-19 is one thing and everything else that's been happening in the country is a completely different thing. I 1,000,000% am against any form of racism.
Yeah.
For any person, color, religion, creed, I don't care. I identify as a Christian, but if you're a Muslim and you're being tortured or, fucking beaten up or whatever because of your religion, you deserve to be defended. It's just how I,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
think that's how, Jesus probably would have been.
That's
Right.
how all humans should.
Yeah. Well, it's just never going to happen. Right. But,
Yeah.
but what I don't agree with is the world that we live in of cancel culture, like running the marketing for, 7 businesses, 8 businesses in this area. There's been 3 of them that have been like threatened from a group of people because like just for the dumbest shit. One business, long ago former employee posted some dumbass racist shit on her Facebook page because she's a fucking piece of trash.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in the year that she hasn't worked for the business, never updated her job status that she's unemployed. And so she posted this stuff, and this group of people started peppering this business with Facebook messages that said, if you don't publicly fire her within 24 hours, we will show up and picket your business. Now, to me, that's disgusting, horrible, awful behavior. Now, that's the shit that I can't stand. Like, I can't stand...
I get it, yeah.
I can't stand the fucking, just all of the... If you don't agree with what I say... dress how I dress, talk how I talk, think how I think, then I am going to vehemently oppose you. That's the stuff that I hate.
I think my issue with cancel culture is some of it's right. That's what sucks. Because the stuff that goes through and happens is right. Like, some people should be canceled. Especially during the whole BLM movement and stuff like that. There's a lot of family members, personally, with myself and with my friends and stuff like that, that deserve to be canceled, deserve to lose their jobs, deserve to do this. But there's also the people that don't.
Yeah.
And there's businesses like that, like things, and you look at like celebrities that tweeted something 10 years ago.
Right.
That is now relevant, like, and there's words that you're allowed to say then that you're not allowed to say now, and there's blah blah blah, and cancel culture is, first of all, why is cancel culture like a bubble?
Right.
Like, we should just call it like nothing. It's situations that people get themselves into.
Like, I had someone message us on Eat Local CNY and say, I've been searching your website and your Instagram account for a post that lists Black-owned restaurants in Syracuse, and I haven't found anything. Please make that post immediately or tell me where I can find it so that way I can know if I should still support you or not.
And if that person had just said, hey, you know what would be great is if you did a post about this. Yeah. And you'd be like, you know what? You're right. Yeah. Maybe I'll do it.
Right. But I didn't do a post about it because our friends, Alicia over at the Syracuse Eating Club, who is on top of everything, not only did it first, but is still promoting it, doing like these raffles where she is.
You're going to get her to come to 3 Lives?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
She's opinionated, bro.
Is she?
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of.
She does a great. Listen, she started like, I don't know how many months ago, but less than a year ago. And she's grown her thing. I mean, she gets, I don't know how many people. It's probably 30 or more to show up to an event. That's
what
talented.
I like about her page that I follow, and I like about your page is you guys don't pull punches.
I pull punches.
And there's
I won't
enough.
I won't say that a
obviously what we've been talking about.
I just
here,
won't post about them.
Yeah, but like if like especially when I'm looking into right now doing soft openings.
Yeah.
Inviting community members to try my food. I don't want that person to go, this is really good.
Right, yeah.
I want that person to go, I like what you did here, but maybe you should not do this here and try this in XYZ.
All right. Do you really want, if someone came to your restaurant and ate your food and didn't like it, now I'm not talking about like the Karens of Cicero. I'm talking about like a regular, I'm not even talking about just a normal person. Mm-hmm. Do you want them to post publicly or do you want them to like message you privately?
So this is something that I ran into a lot at Carmelitas. I would prefer if it's an issue with service or if it's an issue with quality or if it's an issue with X, Y, and Z, for them to speak to me directly at the restaurant before they leave.
Yeah.
Because the second the bite hits your tongue, that's your opinion.
Right.
So I'd rather have them go either, wow, I really like this, or listen, I do not like this at all. And then I can deal with if it's opinion.
Right.
Or if it's something that they're trying to state as fact.
Yeah.
and you can kind of deal with that as it comes.
It's difficult, man. Listen, Cody at Deefy has a story of a customer, actually Cody and Kyle. Cody has a story of a customer who came in, and Cody reads every review, like goes back through and reads the reviews. And then if they have their legit name, he follows up and did they make a reservation? Do I remember them? Who are they? And there was a customer who came in and left a 1-star review, and Cody was like, oh, I'm so torn up about this, and went and after a few days of like beating himself up about it, went and found like, I'm going to see what other restaurants they reviewed. And all the other restaurants that person reviewed were like Taco Bell, McDonald's, and they were all 5 stars. And Kyle has a story of when he first opened, and it was amazing. It was like they were sitting across from each other, and one night he gets a waitress or a server that comes to the back and says, hey chef, a customer wants to talk to you. So Kyle's like, oh God. So he goes out, and I think he said, oh God, because the customer who was from Beijing had asked the server, is the chef Japanese? And she said, no, he's not. And they said, well, where is he from? And the server said, he's from Philadelphia. He's white. And then the customer said, well, can I talk to him? Can I meet him?
Right.
And so the server went in the back and said, hey, chef, this customer asked if you were from Beijing and then now wants to meet you.
Yeah.
And this guy from Beijing met Kyle and said, this is the best ramen I've ever had in my life. Now, that same exact night, a white guy sitting across from that dude left a 1-star review that I was the worst, most unauthentic ramen that he's ever had in his life.
And it's funny because I was at Kasai yesterday.
Yeah.
And Kyle and I had a conversation about basically the same exact thing. And he said, good luck.
Yeah.
You got to have a thick skin. And it's like, I've always been great at critique. I've always, it's good being a musician, being an artist, videographer, things like that. Critique is really important.
Yeah.
And I've never worked as hard at anything as I have food. And I've gotten very little negative critique.
Yeah.
Across my career in food since the beginning. In the beginning, we'll say like the first 5 years that I was cooking, I got a lot of negative critique because my food sucked. Like I knew it did, you know what I mean? But it's a craft that's hard to get into.
Yeah.
So going downtown and seeing the other people and seeing the talent like that Kyle has and that all the restaurants in that area have and Adam at Funk like reaching out to me and saying, hey, if you need anything, let me know, blah, blah,
That's
blah.
Cool.
Like things like that. And I go, I've been eating at Funkin' Waffles. My bands played at Funkin' Waffles when I was in high school.
You know what sounds really good right now?
A waffle?
A jive turkey.
Yeah, dude.
Are they open?
Their waffles are great. I did bring pasta salad if you're hungry.
I know you did, and I appreciate that. And I plan on taking that home. I'm just saying, if Funkin' Waffles is open, we're ending this podcast. Going to Funkin' Waffles.
I actually haven't been since I've been downtown yet.
Really?
Yeah, dude. But
I'm searching this for everyone listening. I'm searching this on my phone.
But it's like, I don't know. I hope that I'll have any chef is a little bit hot-headed, and I'll be, somebody will say, hey, this food sucks or whatever. Like this thing that you've been working on for months sucks.
Right.
And this thing that you put your heart and soul into sucks. And they always say sucks.
Yeah.
It doesn't suck. You just don't like it. It doesn't suck. If they saw that I was there from 8 in the morning to 2 in the morning making something that sucks, they wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when they do say it, it's kind of like, yeah, cool. Yeah. What do you do?
Right. You really do have to have that, like, the value of the person. If my wife said to me, hey, listen, your podcast sucks, I would probably take that a lot harder than if,
some schmo online said it.
CNY decided to say that it sucks. But yeah, so there definitely is that, and you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But the thing with food is that you never, not that you never know, but you always assume that the person kind of has an idea. I've never been a chef. Never cooked it. Well, I have cooked at Denny's third shift when I was 18.
Nice.
Yeah, for 3 months.
R.I.P. Denny's.
R.I.P. Denny's. It's now a burned dairy.
Oh, God.
But so I've never had anybody say like your food sucks, but I also never think anything that I cook at home is good. So, so I don't know what it's like to be a chef and to be thinking of like, well, is John Smith really? Does he know what he's talking about on Yelp?
I think it's going to be, I'm going to be exposed to it way more than I ever have been.
Yeah.
Like times 1,000.
Because you're going to be in downtown.
Right away. Right away.
Yeah.
And that's why I want the brutal opinions of my now peers, which is crazy. It almost sounds like a dream to say that downtown, like the chefs that are down there that are incredible are my peers now.
What's the level of achievement, though, in Syracuse? I mean, you still have your national stuff. I mean, listen, I think 3 Lives is going to be great.
I think so. I think the idea and the idea of community and stuff like that is to make it so that all of us as chefs, we could cook people under the table times 10. You know what I mean? Like, to say, like, just because there's a restaurant in California that's super renowned and is on TV all the time and blah, blah, blah. What does that mean?
You have to categorize yourself.
They work as hard as we do or less as hard as we do.
Right.
Who knows?
You're not a deefy.
Yeah.
You're not trying to go out and do a 8-course tasting menu and yada, yada, yada. You're going to make gourmet fast food.
It's just like any artist or any musician. You know what I mean? Like, just because you're in a metal band doesn't mean that you don't know how to make a hip-hop beat.
And it doesn't mean that Adele is better than you.
It doesn't, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, I try to enjoy the different cuisines, especially downtown. It's so whimsical for me right now to be down there. Like, excuse me. It's so whimsical for me to be down there right now because I'm exposed to these new things, like all these new restaurants and these new chefs and these people that I've only seen on Facebook. And Facebook, it makes it so easy to make people like celebrities. Yeah. And for you to get nervous to talk to them and stuff like that. But then you become their peers and like you become someone that they want to succeed and that you want to see them succeed and stuff like that. And it's like, I think as a whole, I want Syracuse to succeed in food. Big time. Like big time, because I have friends in Denver and stuff like that that after I got divorced were like, you're going to leave Syracuse, right? Get out of there. Like, there's nothing more for you there, blah, 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 blah. I was like, no, fuck that. There's more for me here. Like, and then I meet John and I push into that and I go, listen, dude, we can make this better. And we talk about how all our friends have left Syracuse and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you just go headfirst into making your town better. Yeah. Why not? Why not?
That's a big thing about the city is like most people, I feel like, at least in my generation, I was one of them. I graduated high school and could not wait to get out of Syracuse. And I was 18 and didn't know shit. And left and came back and left again and came back again. And, you know, coming back the second time, it really is, there's so much that just the central New York area has to offer. Right. Especially as you get older and you start to have a family. It really is a great place to be. Having said that, the things that I disdain about Syracuse is how far behind the times everything is. Like, there are so many things that hit the West Coast and even New York City before they ever get to us. Yeah. I mean, you guys are about to open up I know it's not a barcade, but you're about to open up. Right. Yeah. But you're about to open up a restaurant that has arcade games in it. Right. And that and you're going to be the first in Syracuse.
And it's
that's great. And
so exciting to everyone.
I'm so excited. It's
not new.
Right.
But it's the way that we do things for Syracuse is by doing that. Right. Is by, as individuals, taking the things that you and I we can call ourselves cultured individuals, right? Well, I don't know about that, but okay. If you listen to a podcast in California, you know everything about California. Right. Right. You know everything about what's going on in food because we sit on YouTube all day and we look at restaurants and we watch, diners, drive-ins, and dives. Right. Guy Fieri, whatever you want to say about him. Yeah. That show is inspiring.
Makes money.
And it makes money. Yeah. It's inspiring, Anthony.
Yeah. I don't know if diners, drive-ins, and
But you
dives
see what other people are doing.
Yeah.
You see what other people across the country are doing.
Yeah, I get that.
And I've always said, like, if somebody says to me, hey, I'm giving you $10,000 and free travel across the country, right? Where are you going to go eat?
Why?
And it's like, I'm not going to go eat at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant in Vegas. I'm not going to go here. I'm going to go.
Oh, you won it.
Huh?
You won it?
I did, yeah. This
okay.
happened to me just now, yeah.
Oh, really?
No, but like if it's like as a chef, where do you want inspiration from is basically the question.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
So if you're given that money to free travel, whatever, like travel's not cheap. So I can't go do this. I do it on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Right.
But if I were to be able to do it like in real life, I would go to those restaurants in New Orleans where there's a woman who's been cooking since she was 5, making the same Creole recipes over and over again for 80 years.
That reminds me
Those are the places that I go to.
Yeah. I get that.
And those are the places we need more of around here.
Yeah.
But the city is like now that you can take people who appreciate that knowledge, like talking to Kyle and talking to Devin and talking to all these people, that's exactly what I want to do and what I want to bring, and to have a team that's conducive to that is important, and to be able to do it around video games, which is entertaining as fuck. Like, it's a great, like, it's silver lining. That's what everybody's saying.
Zach, I want to congratulate you on a couple things.
Oh boy.
One of those things is being the longest podcast in Eat Local CNY.
Was it like 3 hours at this point?
It's only an hour and 40 minutes.
Okay.
I know I'm about to run out of memory space in one of the cameras.
Yeah.
Well, Zach, thanks for coming on the podcast.
It's been great, man.
I don't know when this is going to be released. We're recording it July 2nd. But 3 Lives, follow them on Instagram, them on Facebook. Find them online, and they're going to be.
And if we're not open yet, we're downtown every day.
Right.
We'll be around. We'll have you come in with a mask and some gloves or whatever, and try a game or two. And
it's going to be good food with arcade games.
Yeah, can't go wrong.
I mean, you really can't.
Yeah.
So, all right, thanks, man.
Pleasure, brother. Yep.